Hi guys, thank you for joining us today with Life Lessons with Donna and Cheryl from Now Is Your Time. And we have got an absolutely gorgeous guest again today. We've got Sandra MACKOWIAK, who's a friend of ours. We met Sandra a few months ago now, and then we had the pleasure of actually spending some face-to-face time with her down in London at a retreat we were all at a few weeks ago. And Sandra, when you meet her, is one of those just beautiful people. She's got such a gorgeous energy, such a gorgeous vibration, and literally just glows. So then we were really surprised the more we got to know Sandra, because actually her background was very different, and some of the things she'd experienced as to what you would think when you meet this gorgeous person in the flesh. So we asked Sandra if she would be brave and speak out really publicly for the first time around what she experienced in childhood and how that shaped her as a woman, and what her life lessons are to share with everybody and pay forward. So welcome, Sandra.
Thank you for having me, ladies. I'm very excited to be on the podcast with you, and I'm happy to share my story. And as I said, it's also like a huge step for me, just talking about this, it's definitely a wonderful thing to do for me, and give others hope and motivate, inspire others through sharing my story. So thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.
Yes, thank you. Yes.
Cheryl and I always say one of the bravest things is being vulnerable, but it takes it to a whole new level when you put that vulnerability out in a public space. So thank you, because we know how much courage it takes. We've been very public about some of the things that have happened to us, and whilst it's really hard, actually, it gets easier, and it's like a sense of relief that comes with it. So I'm hoping that helps you move on today. So talk to us then, Sandra. Do you want to tell everyone who's listening to us just a little bit about where your story started and where things started to change for you when you were young?
Yes, so originally I was born in Poland, but let's say when I was 2 or 3 years old, we moved to Germany, and it was me and the whole family. And at that age, I wasn't able to realize what was going on around me. But let's say at an age at 4, 5, 6, I started to realize that things in my family are going kind of, I don't want to say wrong, because at that moment I didn't realize that it's wrong. I just realized, okay, something is different. And I think we all have this inner feeling, our intuition telling us that things aren't going the right way. So I experienced I was growing up, let's say like this, with a kind of abusive father who kind of treated my mom very bad in a very violent way. And we had weekends when police was always there, and he had that issue also where being kind of addicted to alcohol. So whenever he got drunk, he got this aggressive attitude. And when my mom also tried to get divorced and all that stuff, and let's say kicked him out, it was always the same thing. Whenever he got drunk, he came to our house, he didn't ring the bell or he didn't knock the door, he just rigidly kicked the door and just opened it. And it was me and my brother and my mother. So and my brother, he's 5 years older. So he was always, at that time, he was at the age of, let's say, 10, 11, 12. So I've seen my brother trying to protect my mom and his little sister. And so also the roles in our family completely changed. And I think we all had had the struggles now to deal with it. And then for me, of course, I was kind of the little girl. I always tried to hide in the smallest corner of our apartments. But when I talk about it now, I still feel the fear and the anxiety I had in that moment. And I was hiding from a person I was actually loving. It was my own father. So I think this is a difficult thing to deal with for a child. When you're having your dad, which it's your family, it's your dad, you love him. He was carrying you around when you were a little girl, but then he has this other side, I would say. And so this is what was going around for quite some time. And then my mom finally managed to kind of, let's say, get rid of him. And we also decided as children that we don't want to be in touch with him. So since that time, I've also never spoken to him. So we don't have any contacts. I know that he got his own new family and stuff, but through that time, for me, it was once he was gone, I think life started to feel normal again. The challenges started when I was going more into the woman role, becoming like a young adult, when you of course suddenly you're like get interested into man and all that stuff. And those were the first moments when I started to realize, okay, why do I put myself always last, and why do I feel so not worthy of being loved? You know, it's like once I was, because your father is the first male person you have in as a little child. It's like, you know, your parents are like a role model when it comes to relationships and love. And then I just started to figure out, okay, it's not that I'm seeing myself kind of equal with the relationship I'm in. I always thought I have to do more to be loved. I felt like not being worthy. I felt like I've always been kind of weaker, and I don't know, this feeling of guilt came up in me. And this is when I started kind of to reflect what is going on with me and inside of me. And
So,
yeah.
Sandra, you know, just take us back then. So when did you first realize that what you'd gone through was quite extreme in terms of the violence and the drinking and what you'd witnessed as a child? When did you realize that that's not everybody's experience?
Well, it's a good question, but on the one side also difficult to answer. But I think it might be the time when I was going into school. So you get a feeling how other families work. So other children, maybe they get picked up by mom and dad. And for me, it was always after school, I went to, I'm quite not sure how you call it, but you know, it's not like a kindergarten. It's this place where you go after school.
Yeah, like after
So
school club or
yeah, so it wasn't that. So this was also like one thing, because my mom, she was alone with us, so she, of course, she had to work and she had to cover in case someone is looking after us. So those were the things when I was said, okay, but I want to be with my mom, but she cannot be there, and my dad is also not there. And so those were the moments when I had a kind of comparison how other families work and how my family is kind of dealing with things. And whenever we had also the situations when my dad was coming back and he was kind of maybe drunk and just trying to get into the house, my mom always called my auntie and she always picked me up. So my mom tried to protect me by putting me out of the situation. And that, so I always saw only the beginning of the situation that is going on. And then there was like the police and stuff. This is what I also kind of noticed. But then my aunt was always there to pick me up, and I stayed with my aunt and my cousins. So I think I was in that moment, my mom did the right thing to protect me. So when you would also see my brother and maybe would see me, you would see a completely different. My brother is still kind of struggling with being confident. He never had this kind of role model, his own dad he could look up to. He kind of never had someone like who kind of lead him through life. So I had my mom. So I think this was a very good thing for me, how to kind of get on the right path as well.
And what was it like? So you talked about little Sandra, the inner child, and you said that you would hide in corners of the house, and even now when you're talking about it, you still can get that
Sense
anxiety
of fear,
and fear. So just try to describe for us what that was like living in, well, I would say permanent fear. I don't know if it was permanent, but living in fear as a child.
It's for sure not easy. It's difficult to describe. It's on the one side, as I said, you have this feeling of not being worthy. You have kind of this lack of love. It's you see like other happy families, and of course we always tend to compare. Also when we are like a little child or a little girl, it was like on the one side I felt very guilty. Because like when things are going wrong, it's like we always feel like it's our fault, and I had this feeling of guilt. This is what I had for a very long time. And because we always think, oh, I have done something wrong because daddy is angry and has trouble with mom, so it's this huge feeling of being guilty. Then on the one side it was also combined like being kind of ashamed. So I don't want to say I'm feeling ashamed of my roots, but in the moment when you are surrounded by all the happy families, or at least happy families that seem to be happy on the outside, because this is what we're saying, like you saw me and you thought, okay, it's like you would never maybe thought about having that I might have another story, but we feel ashamed of what is happening to us. We're kind of worried to talk about it. And it raises this kind of insecurity, and also when I grew up and became a little bit older, it was this feeling of, okay, I don't have like, I was taken away this, having this birthright of being happy and having a fulfilling life. So things seem so unfair.
Yeah.
And because in that young age, you really have no idea how to deal with it because you don't understand what is going on there. And so it's like all this more negative feelings and emotions, these are like growing up, and on the one side they become your habit. And I think this is the worst part about it, that you get used to these things, and then you try to work around. And I think this was the difficulty also for my mother. Like she got used to all of this, and she always had hope and that, but it's the father of my children, I need to give him like another chance. And this is how people get stuck in this situation and they don't get out. But I'm happy that we found a solution and a way out in the end. But this is, I think, mainly how it feels, like being ashamed, feeling guilty, not worthy, not being loved, and just unfair.
And it's crazy, isn't it, that as the child in that situation, when you haven't done anything to invoke or to aggravate or to ask for that kind of behaviour from the grown-ups, that we're the ones that feel, you were the one that felt the guilt and the shame and the, you know, worrying that you've done something somehow to do you think even now as an adult you recognise that none of that was your fault, or there is still sometimes feelings of guilt associated with what you experienced?
I think I'm in a very good state now where I can say that I let go of feeling guilty. Also through like my coaching profession, of course, you learn a lot about yourself. And as I said, once I started to fall in love with men, I felt this feeling of, oh, I'm not worthy. This is when I started also to work on myself and to reflect myself. So I realized very early that I was defining myself through my results at school, through everything that was happening on the outside. So because this is how I survived, like I would say, like as a youngster or like as a teenager, because I just tried to have good results at school. I tried to be the best at sports, and it was always like, so I never wanted to fail, because this is how I built up my confidence. So people thought I'm confident, and I was doing this until I think my mid-20s. Also within my job, with my studies, when doing high school. And then there was some point in my life where I just thought, okay, what is going on in here? So it's like I was so focused on the outside that I at some point arrived at this place where I said, okay, this is not what is inside of me. My outside or the inside does not match my outside world. And this is then when I realized, okay, this is not the right way to do it. I want to be me. I want to be unapologetically me. And then I think so it's maybe just happened 2 or 3 years ago when I really realized that I can let go of the feelings I was still carrying with me. And I said, no, this is not my fault. This is just like a kind of pattern that is like in the family. So I was talking to my mom and saying, okay, what was going on in my dad's family? And then she just told me, well, it was a similar situation. So this was also something where I could forgive my dad, because I just thought, okay, he was born in a difficult situation as well. So I just then decided, okay, so it's my mission now to break those patterns and those habits. And when I will have my own family, they will get all my love. And I will make sure that nothing like this never happens to them. And I don't want to, carry on these patterns and habits through my family that my father experienced. And maybe his dad experienced similar things. So when you then look at the bigger picture and you try to find like the explanation, okay, but what is the reason he did this? So it's not, of course, he still has his own responsibility, but I think it's not the right thing to blame him. I think his life was maybe also that nice in the end, so I really don't want to blame him, and I'm wishing him like all the best and sending him lots of love, although I'm not in touch with him. But this was really the moment like when I finally could let go of what was going on inside of me. But of course there are still moments when there are like maybe similar situations when maybe I'm out on the weekends seeing people that are drunk and aggressive. I get in a very kind of protective mood, and or protective mode, and I try to protect my friends and say, okay, let's get out of here, I don't like these situations.
Because that must make you feel really anxious.
It must trigger the same response, even though it's a different situation, it's triggering that same response within you, which in some level which will protect you, and then on other levels, when it isn't actually a dangerous situation, it's causing you undue stress and anxiety, which is understandable. So that's interesting, because I was going to ask about school. When you talked about, you actually, it went the other way. So at school you said you worked really hard, you got good grades, so I suppose that worked in your favor at some level.
Yeah, of course. So this is what I always say also. It's so interesting, because some people, they say, oh, when you're like growing up in this and that kind of family, so you're not able to become someone. And this is the interesting thing then, because I always saw my mom as a huge fighter, as a huge warrior. She wasn't only a survivor. So this situation also made her such a wonderful role model for me, because I saw how strong she is and how she dealt with everything, like taking care of her children, working, and like raising us very well. And she was always trying her best. So until today, she is like the best mom ever, and she is sacrificing a lot of her life. Or she also sacrificed a lot of her life to make things possible for us, and that we were able to grow up as normal as possible. But of course, she cannot replace a father. She cannot be both. So, but this is also what fact that she knows, and I'm not blaming her for anything. It's just like things were difficult and we had to accept it. And then I also said, well, on the one side, today I'm grateful for the things that happened, because this is why I am who I am, and maybe also where I am at this stage. So it's being, as I said, accepting what was, let it go in love. Also like maybe practice some kind of forgiveness, and then just grow out of this situation and grow beyond. So and I think so therefore my mom, she was, or in that situation, she was a great role model, and she did a super job. And
I love that you say your mum is a warrior.
I love that.
Not a victim.
A warrior.
I'm right.
I love that. Even role model, you know, but the term warrior,
not a victim.
I would love for my daughter to call me a warrior.
Warrior.
That's
how you see her. That's what's special about it.
Yeah.
So when you were having these relationships, when you first started entering kind of romantic relationships with the boys, you're very pretty. I bet there was a queue of boys. But how did that pan out for you then? Did you find the patterns repeating where you were with people that didn't treat you particularly well, or did you just kind of go the other way and avoid them like the plague? How did that work?
Yeah, so it's also an interesting thing, because I was never that I was doing like everything all like the boys said to me. I was a strong and individual person, and I had my energy and I had my power. And as I said, I was having great results on the outside world in my life, but they didn't know about like my fears or maybe the insecurity inside of me. But funnily, what means like finally, it was interesting that I always was attracted to the man that had kind of similar characteristics to my father. So they were maybe a bit louder. They liked to partying and get drunk. They were like maybe more like playing with girls and using girls, but not really respecting a woman as what she is. And so this is what also like kind of triggered this feeling, okay, this is what I'm used to. This is what was the kind of picture I had of my family. And so then after some time I just realized, oh my God, it's just so clear in front of me, I'm not realizing it. And this was also the moment when I just said, okay, I'm tired of dating. I'm tired of all the men who are like treating girls like maybe we're just something to play with, that are kind of not respecting my feelings, my emotions. And as I said, I wanted to get rid of this feeling of feeling not worthy. And then because this is what they kind of reflected me, because they, of course, on the one side they took me serious, we had a relationship, and then on the other side it was like well, they were, as I said, the other things might be more important than the relationship with me. And the funny thing is, once I left them, so in the beginning, I was always the one that ended the relationship. And then it totally switched. They were like, they wanted me to come back. And then I just said, yeah, but you didn't respect me. You didn't treat me like you should have treated me. And I felt like you're not loving me, and I have to do more and more that you love me. But this is not, you know, when you like try to keep something and hold on to you, then it's going away. But once I took the decision and I said, okay, I'm out of this, then the situation turned. So this was always very interesting to see. But it was mainly the part where I just felt I need to do more, and I am not enough as a person to be loved. And I thought I have to be, I don't know, I have to have the nicest clothes, I have to have the nicest car, the best apartment, the best job, you know, all these superficial things I was focused on because I was afraid of dealing with my inside.
Yeah, it's all external validation, isn't it? To
try and
make
make
you feel
but then it's the sensations.
How, like, and I see it a lot also nowadays, how girls try to be the prettiest and all that stuff. And I'm so happy that I got out of this this kind of system where you just feel okay, you're defining yourself on what is on the outside. And then I started to kind of coach myself and to see that to, how shall I say, to define my inner values, what I have to give, and to define me as a human being. So if I'm standing there naked, who am I and what do I have to give? And like trying to accept that this is enough to be loved, that I am worthy the way I am. So this is the challenge I was then trying to go through. And I also got rid of my car and my apartment and all that stuff. I became so minimalistic the last 3 years because I just felt it's also wrong. I have all this stuff at home I don't need because it only makes you happy for a short period of time. It's not long lasting. And I wanted to find that self-love inside of me that is long lasting for the rest of my life.
Which is amazing. And now you're using that as part of your role, aren't you? So now you've become a coach, and do you want to share what you're now doing with all of that powerful stuff?
Yes, so it's I am really, let's say, became such a free spirit, and with my story, with what I'm doing, it's a huge mission for me because I know there are so many people out there having stories, or maybe let's say sad stories, they're not sharing. And of course, as we said before, on the one side, it's showing up that we're allowed to be vulnerable. If also when we show up in public, we don't always have to be the strong person, or when we show vulnerability, it doesn't mean we are kind of weak. It's just mean we have a story, and this is where we come from. But as I said, this is something that doesn't define us. So I'm really, through my coaching, I really want to support, well, most of all, like women that, and make them realize that they can transform from their inside out to whatever or whoever they want to be and whatever they want to create in their life. I'm a huge fan of the freedom lifestyle. I enjoy myself as well. So working location independent, being free and being unapologetically me. So this is what I stand for, and to really encourage people and give them hope that it doesn't matter what happened to them and what people have done to them. They should, when they look back, always realize how much power they already had to get where they are, and not always think, oh, I have to give more and more. We are enough the way we are, and we have so much power and this inner forces inside of us. And I truly believe that this is enough to get where you want and become who you want to be. And as I said, accept the past as it is, accept what happened. We cannot change it. And it's about where you are going. And this is what we should celebrate, like looking forward and becoming who we want to be.
So if there was a woman now, so 2 questions for you. If there's a woman now who sat at home, she's listening to your podcast, and she has a young family, and she's living in fear of a man who isn't, or a partner who isn't treating her with respect, is being, whether it's physically or mentally abusive, what would you, as the little girl who can't speak for herself in that house, as a grown-up girl now, what would you say to that mum, that warrior?
what would I say? Well, that's a good question. Because on the one side, I believe that because we always talk about karma and a lot of law of attraction, and what we send out comes back to us. So this is what I also said to my mom. Mom, you should have been more confident. You should have been, although you are a warrior, in these situations, you should have left this man earlier, or like being a lot more stronger, a stand-in for your family and your children. So because I felt my mom was full of insecurity as well. And she was maybe also, because of this insecurity, she was also not like respecting herself. So this is what she was sending to the outside. And then this came back through my dad. So you know what I mean? It's like
she almost attracted it without
conscious. Yeah. So this is like when our unconscious mind, what is inside of us, this is what we attract. And I talk with her about this a lot. So I would really tell maybe that woman that she should really reflect herself, and then maybe see, okay, where does this come from? Where is something where I can maybe do something about me? Because it's so difficult to change someone else. I told my mom there was no way we could have changed that.
No.
This is his thing. This is his how shall I say this? His thing to find a solution for. He has to solve this issue he has on his own. We cannot like kind of rescue him. So I would tell, okay, like reflect yourself. Okay, what can you do about yourself? What can you improve? How you can deal better with the situation, and be there for your children. Because I think lots of people underestimate the impact such a situation has on children. And we get triggered, and like in our early ages, like really a lot. So it's like, this is when our habits and patterns like kind of develop. And when this is what someone is surrounded with in this environment, it's very important to reflect yourself. What can you do about yourself? And then of course, how can you get maybe out of this situation in the best possible way, but without being aggressive, violent, and whatever, like trying to create a place of harmony and where things seem quite normal, and also like talk to your children. Listen to them. Because I think this was, well, I cannot remember, but I'm sure that I was talking to my mom, and my mom, of course, she was talking to me, but like really being very clear. Because for example, when we went to the lawyer and stuff, they didn't believe me what I said. They thought my mom was telling me all that stuff. So it was, because they said, okay, this is a little girl, this is what she's saying, this cannot be true. So it was like a weird situation also for our family, because they thought, okay, we are telling them some kind of weird stories, what happened with me and all that stuff, because my father treated me in a kind of abusive way, not in a violent way. And they just said, oh no, she's not telling the truth, she's too small, maybe she has just created some fantasy. So it's a weird thing, but of course it's like 25 years ago, so situations were different.
But they speak the truth though, don't they? They do speak the truth. That's the. So what would you say, my second question then is, what would your life lesson be, or what would you share with a child who's gone through that, who's perhaps older now and is finding themselves in those same patterns of behaviour, that they're not breaking the cycle? It's a woman or a man who's living through the same pattern that they grew up with. What would your lesson be on how to break free from that?
First of all, like trying to listen to their inner voice. So really defining and naming what is really happening inside of them. So like for me, it was like defining, okay, I'm not that confident, I'm feeling not worthy, I have a huge lack of self-love. So we can, let's say, disempower our fears and the negative energies once we define them and we name them. So this helped me as well in the beginning when I felt, okay, I'm kind of different, something's wrong, why do I want to be someone else, and why I don't want to be me. And so really they should like discover what is inside of them, what kind of fears, and maybe it will help them also to find out, okay, where's the root of this fear, where does it come from? And then also like maybe doing a kind of reality check. As I said, I felt guilty, but was I really guilty? And then for me it was, okay, no, I'm not guilty. This is just, as I said, I was like this discovering the story of my father's family. And then this helped me to understand, okay, this was the pattern that went through the whole family. So it's not my fault. So I stopped feeling guilty. And then really also in terms of having a kind of the view, or like looking into what's ahead of you, really also listening to your heart and to your inner voice. So what do you truly want? Who do you want to become? Write it down, and also write down what you need to do to become that person. Or maybe something is already there. Talk to people and ask them, okay, what do you think about me? Describe me in 3 words. Maybe people say, oh, you're such a loving and a gorgeous person, or whatever they want to be. And maybe we are already that person on the outside, but we just don't notice it because we are so lost in our thoughts and in our worries. And this is what I also like noticed a lot on my path. Like there were all these people coming to me and they said, Sandra, you're so inspiring. I love listening to you and this and that. And then I just thought, okay, maybe there is something about me that is good about me.
Maybe that's the truth.
I'm telling myself that I'm this other person. So really defining your feelings. Really challenging whether or not that thing that you're feeling or telling yourself like guilt, that I'm guilty or that I'm ashamed, whether or not that's true. And then finding and identifying who you want to be. Yeah,
and just maybe accepting the fact that, as I think I mentioned it before, like that we are enough. We are the way we are enough, and we have it all inside. And this is what I truly believe, because it's like now I think, okay, all the certifications and degrees I have, they have nothing to do with my coaching profession. I became a coach because this is like a mission that comes from my heart, and like helping people, inspiring people to create the life they want. And so we are enough. And it's like, as I said, it's just me, and this is all I can give, but I believe this is enough. So this is what people should believe as well.
I love that. If I stand there naked in front of the mirror, am I enough? And
I am enough.
You are enough. And you're certainly enough for us. We're so happy that we found you and that you came into our lives too, and that you're now one of our friends. So thank you so much for being brave and vulnerable and sharing today, Sandra.
Thank you very much. And maybe there's one last thing, because it's just the fact I'm here now. And although this happened to me, so this should be a reminder to all the people out there that we are all a living proof that we can get out of this, you know. So it doesn't matter what happened, I'm here, and I'm a better and stronger version of myself. And that they should never give up and have hope in what they are dreaming of. Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure sharing the story, and I feel absolutely amazing.
We know everybody's going to enjoy listening, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of aha moments for a lot of people listening. So thank you, Sandra.
Thank you.
You're welcome.